"Ship, do you have the enemy vessel secured?" asked Jem. "Confirmed," replied Ship. "Good. You can keep watch while we get some rest. We have done really well, but I've had enough excitement," said Jem. Jem stood up and we all followed. We all left the main bridge and returned to our cabins. It wasn't long before I was asleep. The next morning, we all woke up. I felt refreshed. I did not recall dreaming anything last night, which was a clue how tired I had been. Lane joined us in our cabin for breakfast. This time we had some Ori cuisine, kind of to welcome Kaluna back. It was nice to try different food with my crewmates. After breakfast, we returned to the main bridge. Once we were seated, Jem called us to order. "Now we are rested, Kaluna, please share what happened from when we left the administration hub until your return. Ship will record your testimony for the evidence package," said Jem. Kaluna sat up straight. "Soon after you left me to review logs and video feeds, Tobis and some of his guards entered the meeting room. They had weapons drawn and insisted that I leave with them. They gave no explanation, and I did not protest. They removed my risk communicator and we left the station to board the vessel you found me on. I was directed to a cabin aboard the vessel and I was confined there for the duration of the journey here. I had access to a bathroom and a food dispenser. I knew that you would come after us and you did. I think it was a while after we had arrived in this system that I felt my arm twitching. I guessed it was the chip that Brian had installed. I knew you were close. I tapped my finger and thumb 5 times to send a response. I was not released from my cabin until after they had surrendered. I joined Tobis at the airlock and we returned to ship. "Thank you, Kaluna. Ship, have you downloaded the logs from the enemy vessel?" said Jem. "Confirmed," replied Ship. "Good. Please add the pertinent information to the evidence package. And what about the derelict vessels? Is there anything we should retrieve from them?" "Affirmative. I should like to harvest materials for construction of probes. The metal alloys can be used efficiently by my replicators," replied Ship. "You mean you will eat up sections of the pirate vessels to make more probes?" asked Lane. "Confirmed. The materials are readily usable and do not require me to process ores from nearby asteroids. My reserves are depleted, and recent missions with Brian leads me to believe it is important to restock before proceeding," replied Ship. "What about their computer cores?" I asked. "Status of computer cores of pirate vessels is unknown. All power is out and the cores are shielded from my scans," replied Ship. "Perhaps an examination of their cargo holds will give some clues as to which vessels they have raided recently," I offered. "Ship, move us closer to the derelict vessels. Make sure the nanobots are deactivated. Send in some maintenance bots to salvage data from the computer cores and harvest materials for your replicators. If you have time, investigate their cargo holds for clues. Record any manifests or tracking numbers on shipping containers," ordered Jem. "Confirmed," replied Ship. The tactical display showed we were moving again. The yellow dot representing the captured enemy vessel followed us, under remote control by Ship. We were now maintaining a short distance from the derelict vessels. Ship had bots and probes going out to the vessels to salvage whatever was needed. "Kaluna, I'd like you to dig through the downloaded logs with Ship. Some questions I have are who else is involved. Are there other pirate ships or bases in other systems we need to track down? What is Tobis's role in all this? See what else you can come up with," said Jem. "Yes, Captain," said Kaluna. She moved over to a workstation to begin her task. "Lane, Brian, you're with me," said Jem. We got up and left the main bridge. We followed Jem, and it was soon clear where we were headed. We each put on our away team suits and entered the shuttle bay. Seeing Lane in her new suit made me see her in a new light. She really was part of our crew, our little family. I also noticed that Ship had refined the suits a little. There was a flashlight attached and there were some grab handles. "Good job, Ship. We will see which of the crew aboard that vessel will talk. I don't trust anything Tobis would tell us. He is far too devious," said Jem. "Understood," I said. By now I was doing my pre-flight checks. Soon we left the shuttle bay and traveled the short distance to the other vessel. I decided to call it the other vessel and not the enemy vessel since it was now under our control. I did not know if we would eventually keep it, so I did not think it deserved a name. "Ship, I need your help in selecting some suitable crew to interview. Could you interface with the other vessel and via the internal communications, ask each crew separately if they will talk with us. Tell them that cooperation or lack of it will be noted and may be used later, said Jem. Confirmed, replied Ship. Jem turned to me and Lane. I didn't want to bring Kaluna back with us after her experience as a captive. She seemed to handle it well, but I don't want to push her too far. Understood, Captain, but the logs are in Laguide. Ship will have to translate for her, I said. If Ship or Kaluna need help, they can contact me and I can translate from wherever I am, offered Lane. Thank you, Lane. Ship, did you get that? Asked Jem. Confirmed. When we need help with translations of key information, we will contact Lane, said Ship. We docked with the other vessel. I opened the airlock on our side and we entered. I had a stun gun ready. The airlock closed on our side and then the other side opened. We stepped through into the other vessel. It was dimly lit and looked like the cleaning had been neglected for a long time. Ship, direct us to the first candidate, said Jem. We followed Ship's directions and arrived at a crew cabin. The door unlocked and opened. I looked inside and saw a guard we had met before aboard the trading post. He was already sitting at a small table. He was not making any hostile moves, so we entered. I thought you three were dead, he said in Laguide. Tobis said he sent you to a remote part of the station just before he blew it up. Lane translated his words for us. We got out just in time. Unfortunately, 2 of your colleagues did not make it, I said. Lane translated into Lagod. That wasn't good. He sent my friends to die. I did not know that was his plan until after it happened, he said with Lane translating. Bagalaji policy for pirates is to neutralize them. We have destroyed every pirate vessel we encountered except this one. We still could, but I want to understand what was going on. I want to know everything you can tell me. Your testimony could save your life. I was thinking to drop you off with one of our allies. If you don't want to talk, then I will find someone else in your crew who is interested in my offer, said Jem. We waited while Lane translated. He nodded his head to show he would talk. I got a text on my wrist communicator from Ship that said, recording, for a long time our captive talked in Laguide. Lane asked 1 or 2 questions, but mostly kept quiet as he poured out his story. I looked around at the Spartan interior of his cabin. I thought about how grim the life of a pirate was. It was also short-lived, mostly due to our efforts. I fought to resist a smile. After a while, the pirate stopped and looked to Lane. She turned to us. I think we have everything he knows. Tell him we will step outside and review his testimony, said Jem. Lane translated. We got up and exited his cabin as the door closed. Ship directed us to their bridge. Ship put up a transcript of what he said, translated from Laguide into Ori on their main display. Lane pointed out several corrections before we read it. Here is a summary of the highlights. Tobis is the leader of the pirates. He took over control of the station so that their prey would come to them. The pirates took over control of the station about 6 months ago. It was not a military outpost and did not take much to overpower and eliminate the occupants. After that, they ran the station like usual. Various spacefaring races that used the trading post would supply personnel for running the station. It was not under the jurisdiction of any system. Over time, new personnel would arrive to serve for a period aboard the station. When they arrived, they would be assigned suitable tasks. If they became suspicious, they would be eliminated. As trading vessels visited the station, they would be assessed for their value. Good ones would be targeted for interception by pirates after they left. After one of their key bases was wiped out, they put a price on our heads. Fleets of vessels have been searching systems in this area of space for signs of us. Fortunately, after we destroyed those first pirates, we left the area and so we were not found. Tobis never imagined we would show up back at this station. The plan was to never let us leave alive. I am so glad I did not get suspicious until you arrived, or I would be dead, said Lane. Tobis planned to have us all killed and you with us. We got lucky or he would have succeeded, replied Jem. He also sacrificed his own guards along with us. He doesn't put much value on the lives of other beings, I said. We need to get corroborating evidence of this testimony. Ship, please share this with Kaluna and ask her to look for anything in the logs to confirm any details, said Jem. Confirmed, replied Ship. We need to talk with more of the crew. Without sharing what we know, we can see if their stories match, said Jem. and that is what we did. Ship directed us to the next willing being, and we got their testimony. After that, we talked to a few more beings. It took time, but we got a coherent picture of events. We also learned that most of the pirate vessels were now destroyed, and we had a list of systems to explore for the remaining vessels. We had their leader in our brig. After the interviews, we returned to ship. All the testimony and translations were recorded and added to the growing package of evidence. Jem, Lane, and I went through decontamination and then made it to the main bridge. Kaluna was still there working on data from the downloaded logs. She looked up at us and smiled. "Welcome back. How did it go over there?" asked Kaluna. "They could all use a wash, but we got some useful information," said Jem. We all smiled at that. The air filters on the other vessel were not as good as the ones aboard ship. It was nice to be back. I went to the food dispenser and got some cups of coffee. It had become a drink of choice recently. I passed some to the others, and we all sat down. "So we have gathered data from the crew and the logs from the other vessel. We need to distill the key points and link all the collaborating data," said Jem. "We are almost done with that," said Kaluna. "Ship has all the testimony and translations, and we have been gathering data from the logs. Ship assures me we have more than enough to convict in any court." "Fantastic," said Jem. Kaluna smiled. "Do you think we need to interview Tobis?" I asked. "I think we have enough evidence as it is. I doubt he will give us a confession. He is a devious person," replied Jem. "I agree. I think it best to keep him in the brig with no communication," I said. "This brings me to the next item. What do we do with these beings? We have not had prisoners before, and I am not ready to simply execute them," said Jem. "I agree completely," said Kaluna. "We are allied with the Ori Confederation. I think they could accommodate us if we turn them and the evidence over to them," I offered. I wondered if there would be more bounty on the pirates too. "That makes sense," said Jem. "If you wanted to, we could take them to my home system. My race is known as Quard. We were regular users of the trading post. That was why I was assigned to serve for a period aboard the station. With all the evidence we have collected, they would be glad to assist," said Lane. "I think I would prefer to take our prisoners to the Ori Confederation. After that, we can visit Quard and inform them of the pirates and provide them with a copy of the evidence," said Jem. "Kaluna, do you have a list of trading vessels that were attacked recently?" I asked. "Yes, that list is mostly complete. If we could access the computer cores of the trading post, I could get a more complete list, though." "What do you have in mind?" asked Kaluna. "When we informed the Ori Confederation about the fate of the Opalunai, we provided closure to the families and friends of the crew. I think there are a lot of families and friends of the victims of these pirates that also need closure," I said. "Good point, Brian. We have a lot of work to do to clean up this mess," said Jem, sighing. She looked like the full weight of the responsibility of this investigation was pressing down on her shoulders. "Captain, before we leave this system, I have a project I would like to complete," I said as I looked at Jem. "Of course. Notify ship when you are ready to depart. Our next destination is the Ori Confederation," said Jem. I smiled and left the main bridge. Just after I left the main bridge, Lane caught up with me in the passageway. "Brian, may I come along with you?" She was once again in my face, smiling up at me. I wondered if she grew up where they had little regard for personal space. On Tien Prime, to get so close to someone and to show such visible emotions would freak out most Tiens. Even on the Ori freighter, where space was limited, they were not so aggressive. It took all my self-control to not lose it. "I was just going somewhere quiet to work something out with Ship," I said. "What is her agenda?" "I understand. If it isn't something private, I'd like to tag along to observe, if not participate," said Lane. "Did Jem send you?" I looked in her eyes. "No, I'm impressed with all the cool things you and Ship do. I'm just interested." She returned my gaze and puffed out her chest in a posture that seemed to say she was resolved about this. I was reluctant to share my time with Ship. We had a special relationship wherein miracles somehow manifested. I was uncertain her presence would hinder our process. But she was new aboard. I knew what it was like to be the new being aboard a vessel, trying to fit in. Who knows, maybe she could add something. Anyways, I kind of knew what I wanted to do already. Okay, you can come along, I said. I turned back to resume my walking, and Lane took hold of my hand and matched my pace. I briefly looked down at her and was about to give a derisive sigh. She was smiling up at me, happy to be part of something. I could not dash her feelings so callously. I wasn't that kind of being. She was on our side. I only hurt my enemies. So I kept it to myself and resumed looking ahead and kept walking. Lane and I arrived at a lounge area that I often gravitated to when I wanted to work with Ship. It had some seating, a food dispenser, and a table. I immediately spotted something new. There was a large display on the wall, facing the seating. Lane and I took a seat together. Ship, you added a display. Is that for me? Confirmed. Last time we used the display on the food dispenser. Logic suggests that a display would facilitate our working together, replied Ship. Thank you, Ship. I appreciate the gesture. Also, Lane asked to join us, I said. Hello, Ship. Is this where the magic happens? Asked Lane. Confirmed, replied Ship. If by magic you are referring to the spark of inspiration and creativity, then yes, I added. All the construction of items happens elsewhere within Ship. Cool, said Lane. Ship does all the hard work anyways, I said. Confirmed, replied Ship. I smiled. I think Ship was developing a sense of humor. I had an idea I wanted to share with Ship. Ship, have you salvaged enough materials to replenish your supplies? I asked. Confirmed, reserves are at 100%. I also salvaged some of the cargo that could later be useful, replied Ship. I wonder what Ship found over there. And I assume you have recovered the probes we used in the system? Confirmed. Please put up images of Tobis's vessel on the display. Several images of the other vessel appeared. Ship, I'd like some customizations to the Dreadnought probe you created. Firstly, I wanted to be able to create a perfect likeness of this vessel. I pointed to the images on the display. Confirmed. Pirate vessel schematics and images downloaded. Let's give it a designation Pirate Decoy Alpha. Can you give it all the pirate frequencies and protocols? Also, I wanted to be able to greet other pirate vessels with Tobis's voice in Lagod. Confirmed. Probe is now designated Pirate Decoy Alpha. All pirate frequencies and protocols loaded. Lagod language files loaded. Tobis's voice print configured. Outstanding. Now the overall protocol is as follows. Remain cloaked within the system until the arrival of pirate vessels are detected. Decloak and assume likeness of Tobis's vessel. Greet pirate vessels and order them to rendezvous. Deploy nanobots to neutralize them. Be careful not to harm non-pirate vessels. Can you do that? Confirmed. Protocol update sent to Pirate Decoy Alpha. Ship, launch Pirate Decoy Alpha, I said. Confirmed, said Ship. Wow, said Lane. When Tobis left the trading post, there were 2 other vessels that left to other systems as decoys to make it harder for us to follow and rescue Koluna. That means at least 2 vessels out there know he came here. Eventually, when he does not check in, they will come looking for him and the other vessels, I said. Lane nodded. So this is your welcome present to them? Asked Lane. I think it is safest to defeat the enemy when we are not even here. The safety of this crew is a high priority to me. That includes you, I said. Lane smiled up at me. I knew I said the right thing. Ship, I am ready to depart the system. Please take us to the Ori Confederation, I said. Confirmed, said Ship. We were on our way again. Space travel takes time. The hyperspace engines move Ship and the other vessel at incredible speeds. But the distance between star systems is huge. Our journey to the border with the Ori Confederation would take over 12 days. Ship had the other vessel travel in close formation, which allowed communication between the 2 vessels. Even if there was a break in communication, Ship assured me that the data port probe could work autonomously, keeping the crew locked down. Tobis was still in the brig, effectively in solitary confinement. None of us wanted to interview him. We relied on Ship to monitor and report any issues. I awoke feeling confused. I had stayed up going over various things in my head until I was too tired to stay awake. Then I must have slept for a long time. Without looking at a chronometer, I had no idea what time it was. The profession I had chosen, or rather had chosen me, was such that we had long, intense periods where we were locked in a life and death struggle. It was only during these periods of interstellar travel I got to let down my guard. Sleeping late was a luxury. I realized I needed the rest to recover, to recharge my energy. I pulled myself out of the bed to do my usual washroom activity. When I returned, I finally noticed that Jem and Kaluna were not in the bed. Lane was, though. She was sprawled out, still asleep. This is new. My mind was still rather fuzzy, so I went over to the food dispenser and got myself a cup of coffee. I found it improved my thinking. I sipped on my coffee for a while, then I got dressed and went to find Jem. I walked into the main bridge and found Jem and Kaluna there, sitting and talking. "Good morning, Brian," said Kaluna. "Good morning," I replied. I took a seat with them. Was I out long? We all had a stressful time with the trading post and the pirates. Extended rest is ordered for all crew, at least until we reach the Ori Confederation, said Jem. I smiled at Jem. When I awoke, Lane was in the bed. Yes? Asked Jem. I have no idea what happened, I said. Kaluna and Jem smiled. I believe you, Brian. You were completely out when we got up. You would not have noticed when she got in beside you, said Kaluna. Okay, then I don't understand, I said. You are in short supply. It seems like we may have to sleep in shifts, said Jem. Kaluna chuckled. My Tian education did not prepare me for this. Can you please explain what is going on? I asked. Jem took my hand in hers. Spacefaring races are beings. We all have needs for companionship, comfort, even love. Lani looks up to you, sees you as a hero who saved her life, rescued Kaluna and defeated the pirates. Yes, she has it bad, said Kaluna. But we worked as a team. I did my part as we all did, I protested. Her estimation of your contribution is a matter of perception, but it would be cruel to reject her advances. She has reached out to you. In fact, I am ordering you to be gentle with her feelings, said Jem. Understood. Thank you for the benefit of your wisdom. Social interaction is not my strength, I said. You are welcome, replied Jem. If you don't have feelings for her, just think of it as sharing mutual support and comfort. It is for all our benefit we do not have bad feelings between us, and we are relaxed and get along well, added Kaluna. With a larger crew, it would all happen by mutual consent, but as Kaluna said, you are in short supply, Jem said, smiling. If we were still aboard the Opalu Na, eventually you would have connected with other crew. You didn't have time before it was destroyed, said Kaluna. After a while, I left the main bridge to spend time alone. I needed to take my mind off things, so I got into one of ship's training courses. On board vessels, there were usually computer-based training courses to allow the crew to learn skills needed to do their jobs. As I said before, space travel takes time. Beings need to develop their skills, learn new ones. You can't just go back to the spaceport to train a new engineer. You need to be self-sufficient out here. It also was a way to while away the time between systems or to hide from other crew while you get your head sorted out. Ship's training courses were especially good and kept me engaged. Hours later, I was deep into schematics for a plasma flow regulator when I felt my arm twitching. Ship, did you just ping me? I asked. Confirmed. Jem requested I get your attention, replied Ship. My presence is required? Confirmed. Main dining lounge, replied Ship. This was different. We normally ate in our cabin. One food dispenser is the same as another, as far as I was concerned. I had better go then. Thank you for the diversion, Ship, I said. I got up and left for the main dining lounge. Ship was built a long time ago for a much larger crew. But when you are only 3, or now 4 beings, you limit yourself to just a few areas. I don't recall ever eating in the main dining lounge. Walking along, I realized I was hungry. I had only had a coffee when I woke in the morning, and I suspect a whole day had passed. I entered a large room that had several tables and chairs set up for some kind of communal eating area. There were several food dispensers along one wall. Also on one side of the room were some large sofas, facing a large display on the wall. Sitting on one sofa were Jem, Kaluna, and Lane. When I approached, Jem stood up. Hello, Brian. Welcome to the main dining lounge. Please take a seat. I looked to one of the other sofas, but I noticed Kaluna quietly and slowly shaking her head. I sat down on the same sofa next to Lane, who smiled at me. I nodded briefly to acknowledge her, then turned back to Jem. As captain, I have a responsibility for morale. We need to get along together. When we have to deal with pirates or whatever duties are needed, we have to look out for each other. So I have some new policies I want to introduce. At least once per day cycle, we will eat a meal together. It could be breakfast in a cabin or dinner in here. I want it to be a social event where we spend time together as a group. It should be fun too. Try to spend recreation time with each other. Look for opportunities to interact. Get to know each other. Seek common interests. Brian, I need you to set a reasonable limit on your time alone with ship. We talked about this before. If you have a concern or a worry or anything that involves another crew, first try to discuss it with each other. If that does not work, come and discuss it with me. Tonight we will enjoy dinner and a movie. The term movie refers to a video entertainment with categories like drama, comedy, action. I talked to Kaluna and she has selected an Ori comedy for tonight. Lane has helped select the food for this evening, and it is already on a table over there. Please get a plate and load it up and come back to this sofa. I want us to enjoy good food, good company, and entertainment together. We all got up and went over to the table with some food on. I loaded up a plate while Lane was explaining what was what. After growing up on bland Taiwan food, sampling different foods was something I enjoyed. I made a point of taking some of everything Lane had selected, which earned me more smiles. We returned to the sofa with our plates. It was a snug fit for the four of us. I ended up between Kaluna and Lon. Ship, please dim the room lighting about half and play the selected movie, said Jem. We ate dinner and watched the display. Comedy was not something I experienced before on TN Prime. It seemed to involve misunderstandings and unfortunate events to the characters. I knew I would have to discuss it with Kaluna later. At least the food was enjoyable. I let Lane know which items I liked best. She smiled at me, which bothered me. I hoped the hero worship would wear off soon. I felt it was unwarranted and undesired. After the movie, we returned to level 6. I went into what was once my cabin, followed by Kaluna. Lane and Jem both smiled at the doorway but did not join us. I guess they had worked something out. After doing our evening routine, we got into bed and turned out the light. I haven't thanked you for rescuing me again. I now owe you 2 life debts, said Kaluna. You don't owe me anything. I made a stupid mistake to leave you alone with Tobis and his cronies. I should have realized he was bad, I replied. I disagree. I have seen the video of what you did. You raced after me, destroyed a whole fleet of pirate vessels, and forced Tobis to surrender, said Kaluna. I promised your father I would take care of you. I slipped up. They could have killed you. I had to get you back. I would not let that bastard win. We are the last 2 survivors of the Opalu Na. His pirates killed every last one of our former shipmates. I couldn't let him kill you, I said. I was getting worked up. And for that, I thank you. We now have the being behind all the killing and destruction. He will answer for his actions. We will make sure of that. In doing so, we honor the memory of those who died, said Kaluna. I still have more to do. There are pirate vessels we have not caught up with yet. I intend to wipe them all out, I said. Yes, always more to do. I want to track down the vessels that were destroyed. Then we can inform their home systems and provide closure to the families of the victims, said Kaluna. But first we take care of Tobis, I said. Yes, he gets his soon, but not tonight, Shu. Kaluna said. She kissed me. I figured she was trying to distract me. I was not too keen to let go, but she was persistent. We kissed and held each other until we slept. Over the rest of the trip to the Ori Confederation, I continued to follow the captain's orders. I had to dial down my alone time and attempt to be there for each of my crewmates. Lane liked to talk a lot, and I listened. She was a vocal kind of being. She also liked to hang out with me when I interacted with Ship. I liked this aspect because I could spend more time with Ship and count it as social interaction. Kaluna was excited to be visiting home again. I had her try to explain this comedy thing to me. I was not sure it made sense. Such forms of entertainment did not exist on TM Prime. Perhaps with more examples, I would better understand it. I also suggested she pick up a library of more video entertainment so we could try some new ones. Jem seemed happy that we were all bonding well together. She had a responsibility on her shoulders I could not fully comprehend. I owed her my life and also a good career as part of her crew. I would do what I could to support her goals. When the time came, we were all seated in the main bridge as ship came out of hyperdrive at the border to the Ori Confederation. The other vessel was still in formation with us. We came to a halt where we expected to be detected. Ship turned on the friendly transponder code we were assigned from our last visit. It did not take long. Sensors indicate an Ori patrol vessel has detected our presence and is changing course to intercept, said Ship. What is the estimated arrival time? Asked Jem. Estimate they will be in range in 8 minutes. Jem turned to Kaluna. Kaluna, I'd like you and Brian to answer their hail like last time. A recognizably Ori face will forestall any negative reaction. Yes, Captain. Ship like before, I will return their hail, replied Kaluna. I turned to Lane and said, You will enjoy this. A few minutes later, we got the incoming hail we expected. Baglogi vessel, welcome back to Ori space. Thank you for the welcome. My name is Kaluna and this is Brian. We are both crew aboard this vessel. I am transmitting our credentials to you now. Your credentials are confirmed. I see that Brian is listed as ambassador to the Bagloga. Please confirm the purpose of your visit, said the commander. The other vessel is fully under our control. We are using it to transport prisoners we apprehended. They were pirates that preyed upon commercial freighters, both Ori and others. We request an escort to Ori Major to meet with representatives of the Criminal Justice Unit, where we will turn over our prisoners and all pertinent evidence. Please stand by, came the reply. So far it is going well, said Jem. Yes, I think it will go better this time now they know us, I added. Shortly after we got a response. Baglogi vessel, I have summoned an escort for you. To expedite your arrival, we will escort your vessels until we can hand you over. Please follow us. Thank you. We will follow you, replied Kaluna. The Ori patrol vessel turned toward Ori Major, and Ship followed with the other vessel in tow. This visit, we did not warrant a heavily armed escort from the border, as we were allies. About 2 hours later, we met up with an escort vessel. Kaluna, Brian, we are to hand over escort duty to this vessel. Please follow their directions from now on. I wish you a safe journey. Acknowledged. Thank you, replied Kaluna. The patrol vessel peeled off and turned back towards the border. We continued our journey to Ori Major with the escort vessel. A few hours later, we arrived at the star system Ori Major. We proceeded as directed to the third planet around the star and into a stationary orbit above the planet. Our escort vessel remained with us in orbit above the planet. It looked as it did before, the hub of their system with transports coming and going. A few minutes later, we had an incoming hail. On the tactical display, we saw the familiar face of Minister Terran. Greetings to you, Brian and Kaluna. I am pleased to see you are well. I understand you have detained some pirates, and you have evidence to share of their crimes? Asked Terran. Yes. A group of pirates took over control of the trading post and then attacked vessels after they visited the station. The pirates ran the station and trading vessels did not even know they were being targeted, I said. I see. Well, I will arrange a group of investigators from the Criminal Justice Unit. I assume you will transmit the evidence you have, and I will make sure they get it. Will you be sending down a delegation? He asked. I had a less than enjoyable time the last time I was there. I hoped that now we were officially allies, we would get better treatment. Of course. This time there will be. I looked at Jem, and she waved 4 fingers. 4 beings in our group. We can walk the investigators through the evidence. Fantastic. I will arrange a shuttle for your delegation. Anything else? He asked. The pirates are all locked in their cabins aboard the other vessel. At a suitable time, we can hand over control to your security team. We have their leader detained in our brig aboard our vessel. Perhaps we can turn him over to your care sooner. I'd rather not have him aboard our vessel any longer than we need, I said. Absolutely. I will include a small security detachment to travel in the shuttle to take him into their custody, said the minister. Excellent. We will be ready when the shuttle arrives, I said. Ship closed the communications channel. By the time the shuttle arrived and docked at our airlock, we were all dressed in our away team uniforms and assembled on our side. Jem and I had fetched Tobis from our brig and put restraints on him. He did not fight us. I guess he did not know the number of our crew, or he might have tried something. I did not trust him. I felt somehow this was not over yet. Ship indicated it was safe to transfer, so we entered our airlock. A moment later it closed and the shuttle airlock opened, and we stepped out into the shuttle. We were greeted by a familiar face. "Commander Kwan, this is a pleasant surprise," said Kaluna. "I was fortunate to be in the system when the news came through that you were visiting. I volunteered for the assignment." "Is this your prisoner?" asked the commander. "Yes, his name is Tobis. He is the leader of the pirates responsible for the destruction of the Opalu Na and many other civilian freighters. I trust your team will take good care of him," said Kaluna. I raised my eyebrows at that. She seemed to value life, but she was all but spelling out to the commander. This was the being responsible for the death of his family member Yaron. "Is that so?" He waved at two of his team, and they secured him to a seat in the back of the shuttle. They scanned his ID chip. "Brian, good to see you in person. I believe a drink is in our future," said the commander as he clasped my forearm in what I recognized as a warrior greeting. I did not think of myself as a warrior, but as a diplomat I reciprocated. "Yes, may I present Jem?" "Captain Jem, this is Commander Kwan," I said. The commander saluted the senior ranking officer. "Pleased to meet you, Commander," said Jem. "This is Lane, a recent addition to our crew. I am honored to meet you all. If you will please take a seat, we can undock and take you down to the planet's surface," replied the commander. We all took our seats. Commander Kwan waved to the pilot. Soon we undocked and were descending through the atmosphere. Ori Major is a beautiful planet, and the view from the shuttle as we descended gave us an excellent view. We landed at the spaceport where Kaluna and I had arrived last time. This time we were greeted by Minister Darrin himself. Our status as allies made life so much easier. Tobis was taken away by Commander Kwan and his team. I wondered if he would be likely to suffer an accident in his captivity or not. I did not care if he did. He tried to kill me, so he is lucky to still be alive as far as I was concerned. Kaluna and I made the introductions to the minister. One of his staff ran an ID scanner over Jem and Lane's arms. Minister Darrin tapped a few things into his device. "I have made sure you each have diplomatic status for your visit to the Ori Confederation. It should help you get through any red tape, should the need arise." "That is a most kind minister," said Jem. "Before we proceed, do you have need of rest or food or anything?" asked the minister. It was about mid-morning local time here at the spaceport. "No, we are ready to proceed, Minister," replied Jem. "Excellent," said Darrin. He escorted us to a rather deluxe-looking ground transport, which took us to Ori High Command offices. "I have arranged for investigators from the Criminal Justice Unit to meet with us. By now they have received the evidence you transmitted to us. I am excited to see what you have for us this time," he said. "You won't be disappointed," I said. We arrived at the Ori High Command. It was a huge, sprawling complex of buildings. We followed Darrin as he directed us into a large meeting room with tall ceilings. There were about a dozen investigators in there, already viewing video footage on multiple displays around the room. As we walked into the room, they all paused their viewing and turned towards us. One being approached our group. "This is Chief Investigator Use. He has been appointed to lead our team of investigators on this project," said Minister Darrin. "We are pleased to meet you, Chief Investigator Use. I am Captain Jem. This is Commander Brian, Lieutenant Kaluna, and Ensign Lane," said Jem. "We have only begun to examine the evidence you have provided us." "What I have seen so far is impressive," said Yus. "Thank you. We are here to walk you through the events that happened and the evidence gathered. I would like to have my commander start by outlining the events, and then we could go into the evidence. Would that be acceptable?" said Jem. "Most acceptable," replied Yus. I did not realize I had to give a speech, or I would have prepared. Or maybe I would have feigned an illness to avoid coming. Everyone took their seats as I walked up to one end of the room where there was a large display. I had an idea. I approached Use. "Excuse me, can I make use of your display? Would you permit me to interface the AI from our vessel to this display?" I asked. Yus nodded. He tapped something on his device and nodded again. I tapped on my communicator. "Ship, I am in a large meeting room, And would you be able to interface with the display near me? I have to do an introduction, and perhaps you can use it to show some images or videos that would help my presentation, I asked. Confirmed. Access established. I will keep an open channel on your communicator to listen to your introduction, and I will provide what visual aids as are appropriate, replied Ship. Awesome. The display showed a view of the trading post from when we approached it and before it was destroyed. I turned my back to the display and faced the room. I could do this. Good morning, everyone. I am Brian, commander aboard the Baglogi vessel. I assume you were all briefed about our last visit here when we reported the loss of the Opalunai and the subsequent destruction of all the pirate vessels. I got several nods. Good. Well, one thing that bothered me was how did the pirates know where to intercept the Opalunai in deep space? When traveling between star systems, the distance is so large, it should be impossible to predict where a freighter will be, unless they had foreknowledge. The point of intercept suggests that the pirates knew the flight path of the Opalunai, and the last place the freighter visited before being destroyed was the space station known as the trading post. We went there to search for information. Our theory was that a being or beings aboard the space station were colluding with the pirates. We asked and got permission to interview staff and check communications logs. During our investigation, we discovered the body of a communications officer with what looked to be a fake suicide, further tracking his movements before his death, showing he visited a remote storage room. When we went to investigate, the guards attacked us. We defended ourselves and escaped back to our vessel just before the station was destroyed. Lieutenant Kaluna was abducted by Tobis, and he left aboard his vessel. We pursued him to a remote system where he had arranged an ambush. We destroyed all the pirate vessels, except Tobis's vessel, which we captured. That is the vessel we brought with us to transport the crew as prisoners. We interviewed the prisoners, and we downloaded and examined the logs from Tobis's vessel. All their testimony and corroborating evidence is in the package you now have. I moved away from the display to show I had concluded my presentation. I had not seen what Ship had shown them, but they were all wide-eyed and impressed. Lane was looking at me with admiration and smiles. I did not do this for her and did not mean to encourage her. I was just trying to do my job. Her reaction bothered me, but I tried to hide any negative reaction while in front of an audience. Jem stood up. Thank you for your concise introduction. Yes, do we need to take a break before continuing? Yus looked a little stunned. Yes, I think that is a good idea. We will reconvene in half an hour. During the break, Jem approached Kaluna. Lieutenant, when we resume, I would like you to walk them through the testimony from the interviews. Yes, Captain, replied Kaluna. Ship can interface with the display on the wall. You can just talk about the information and they will see it on the display, I said. Yes, that would help. Thank you, said Kaluna. About then, Yus guided everyone back into the meeting room. I noticed that some of the investigators had remained in there during the break to look through the evidence. Jem stood and addressed the group. Next, Lieutenant Kaluna will walk you through the testimony from the interviews. Kaluna walked to the front of the room. On the display was a list of names. This is a crew manifest of Tobis's vessel. The marked ones are those who have given testimony. We have video recordings and transcripts translated into Ori for each one in the evidence package. Further, we have distilled their testimony down to the salient points. The bullet list of highlights was on the display behind her. I won't go into this, but you see that the pirates under the leadership of Tobis captured the trading post and used the situation to prey upon freighters that visited the station. For each of the key points above, we have cross-reference to the testimonies and also data gathered from other sources, such as the logs from Tobis's vessel. All of that is in the evidence package. Kaluna indicated she was done. Chief Investigator Yus stood. Thank you, Lieutenant. Your team has done a thorough job gathering and organizing the evidence. We will need a few days to study it. The meeting was adjourned. As we left the meeting room, the minister gathered us together. Captain, I have arranged some suitable accommodation at the hotel across the street from here. The Ori government is picking up the tab for your stay. Kaluna, when I first heard that you were visiting, I contacted your parents to let them know you were in town. I expect they should be in their suite in the hotel by now. It is on the same floor. Kaluna was smiling so much she looked like she was going insane. Thank you, Minister. Your hospitality is most appreciated. No doubt Chief Investigator Yus will be in contact with us as and when they need to. said Jem. Of that I have no doubt. Darrin passed Jem a communications device. This will enable the investigators to reach you. I smiled. Excuse me, Minister, there was a Commander Quan who met us in the shuttle. I promised to meet with him. Would it be possible you could get word to him where to find us? Most certainly, Commander, replied Darrin. He pulled out another communicator and sent a brief message. I have sent him details of your accommodation and also the ID for the communicator I gave to your captain. May I ask your interest in him? Certainly. He is family to one of the deceased crew from the Opolu Na. We are to drink to their memory. I made him a promise, I said. I noticed Kaluna was bouncing about talking with Lung. Your actions to honor the memory of the deceased touches me deeply. You were not born Ori, yet you do more for the Ori Confederation than most who were. Thank you, the minister said. They were my crewmates. They were family, or as close to one as I ever knew. I grew up in an orphanage. I miss them. They died too soon, I said strongly. The minister looked visibly shaken. Perhaps, during your stay, you would do me a favor. There are many grieving family members of those who died at the hands of these pirates. If you could spare the time to give an interview, it could give them closure, asked the minister. Please ask them to contact me via the communicator. I will make time for them in our schedule. I will also get Kaluna to participate once she calms down from meeting her parents. I smiled. The minister shook my hand warmly. Thank you, Brian. You are a true patriot. Now I must go, matters of state and all that. And he was gone. After the minister left us alone, there was no reason to remain at the Ori High Command. Kaluna literally dragged us across the street to the hotel they had arranged for us. When we arrived, the check-in procedure involved scanning the ID chip in our arm. Soon after, we were escorted up to an enormous suite that included at least 4 bedrooms and had a balcony view of the city below. I had never been in a place as nice as this before. It was gone midday, and I was feeling somewhat tired from our meeting with the investigators. I hoped that they would be so focused on the evidence, and we would have time to just rest or do some shopping. I knew Kaluna enjoyed shopping. Our away team uniforms were good protection from anything including energy weapons to a decompression, but they were not so comfortable to be in all day. I asked Kaluna about finding us something else to wear. Kaluna went over to a screen on the wall and pressed a few buttons. Brian, please come and stand over here, she said. I did so, and the device in the wall scanned me. Kaluna then looked through a catalog of garments and selected some for me. I would normally have picked for myself, but I knew not to offend her when she was helping me. Picking out clothing for me suddenly became a team event. I was moved to the side as the 3 of them browsed the choices available. Shortly, I had a replicated change of clothes. I took them from Kaluna, and I was about to go into one bedroom to wash up and change. Hold on, Brian, said Lane. Kaluna, can you have it scan me next? I waited patiently while the device scanned her to get her measurements. She whispered something to Kaluna and then grabbed my arm and said, I'm ready. Let's go. We entered a huge bedroom. I dropped my clothes on the bed, and we proceeded directly to the bathroom. Lane and I helped each other remove our away team uniforms. They were tricky to remove on your own, as they had to be airtight. This suite was equipped with a real water shower. It was not something I was familiar with. It seemed Lane knew what to do. Soon we were both underneath a hot shower and helping to wash away the stress of the day. Lane was looking up at me a lot with those eyes of hers. I did not dare discourage her feelings, but I did not encourage her either. I just relaxed into the shower experience. How are you liking your visit to Ori Major so far? I asked after we had been a while under the hot water. This is amazing, brilliant, awesome, she replied. You and Kaluna both spoke to the highest-ranking investigators on this planet, and they treated you as equals. Kaluna said Minster Darrin is one of the top beings in their government, and you were chatting with him like old friends. It is so fantastic, Gaunt, exclaimed Lane. I thought better of sharing my first experience on Ori Major. She was floating on the clouds, and who was I to bring her down? Besides, that was behind me now. After we finished cleaning up, we returned to the bedroom. Lane picked up an outfit that had been left for her on the bed. We both got changed. It felt delightful to be in clean clothes. My outfit was stylish, but casual. Not something I would have chosen for myself, but if it pleased Kaluna, it was no chore to wear it. Lane wore a patterned dress, which was a big change from jumpsuits and uniforms I was used to seeing her in. The transformation was startling. I wondered what the others had chosen for themselves. Lane, please don't recycle our away team uniforms. They contain baglogy technology, and we are not yet ready to share it with our hosts, I said. Lane nodded. She gathered up our uniforms and put them in a closet. I wonder where the others are, I mused aloud. Probably doing the same as we did in one of the other rooms, replied Lane. I thought about disturbing them, but then decided against it. The bed looked extremely comfortable, so I kicked off my new replicated shoes and laid back to try it out. Lane lay down by my side. Soon after, we were fast asleep. I was awoke by Lane nudging me. Hey, Jem says it is time to get up. Okay, I am awake, I grumbled. I looked at Lane, all smiling as usual, so I changed gears and smiled back at her. We got up from the bed, I visited the washroom, and then Lane and I left the bedroom back into the living area of the suite. Jem and Kaluna were sitting on a sofa and talking with Kaluna's parents. They turned towards us. Hello again, I said to her parents. I was just saying we were catching up on some sleep. How are you feeling now? Asked Jem. Much better, thank you, I replied. Good, we are all going to get dinner. The hotel has a nice restaurant on the top floor with a view, said Jem. Sounds like a plan. Lead on, I replied. Mother, this is Lane. She joined our crew since our last visit, said Kaluna. I'm pleased to meet you, Lane, said her mother. Lane smiled. We all took the elevator up to the top floor and it opened into a foyer, and from there we walked to the restaurant. We were soon seated and treated as VIBs, very important beings. Kaluna's father spoke to me. I understand you saved our daughter's life again. I made an error in judgment, which allowed her to get captured by the leader of the pirates. I did what I had to rescue her, I replied. The point is, she is safe. You got her back, and she seems no worse for the experience, he said. I will be more cautious who I trust next time, I said. He killed over 100 pirates to get me back, Kaluna cut in. This is the first I heard. I never asked Ship for a count of the dead pirates. They were irrelevant to me. He did, They were waiting to ambush us in an uninhabited system. They would have killed us just as easily, I said. Still, it says something. You would go that far to rescue our daughter. I thank you, he said. I hadn't thought of it that way, I said. I felt rather awkward. I was Tien, and as a Tien, we did not have feelings or care about anything or anyone. I did what I felt was the right thing to do. The way they saw it, my actions seemed extreme. We placed our orders, and they scanned the ID chips of Jem, Lane, and me to confirm our choices were safe for us. How long are you visiting Ori Major this visit? Asked Kaluna's mother. I'm not sure yet. We have meetings with the investigators from the Criminal Justice Unit, and I don't know how long it will take, replied Jem. Will you be busy most of the time? She asked. I don't know yet, but I promised Kaluna we would have time to go shopping and to see the sights with you, answered Jem. This cheered up both Kaluna and her mother. The communications device Jem received from the minister rang and she looked at it, then passed it to me. It was an incoming call from Commander Kwan. Hello, this is Brian, I said. I got your message. I presume this is about meeting up for a drink, he said. Yes, what is your schedule like? I asked. Would this evening work for you, around 0800 local? I checked first with Jem. Yes, do you have a location in mind? Sure, I have a favorite called Gorn's. Let me text you the address. Show it to any taxi and they will know where to go. Okay, I got it. See you there. I hung up the call. The others looked at me. I have an appointment to see Commander Kwan this evening. He is family to Darrin, the former chief engineer aboard the Opaluna, I explained. I got some nods in return. Do you need me to come with you, Brian? Asked Kaluna. No, this is just me and the commander. I can handle this. You spend some time with your parents, I replied. She smiled. I also noticed her mother smile and nod behind her. I took a taxi at the front of the hotel, and it did not take too long to get to the destination. For payment, the driver scanned my ID chip. I still had an account with Ori funds. Gorns was frequented by military and security personnel. Quite a few of them were in uniforms. I felt out of place wearing casual clothing. Several beings looked at me as I walked in. They were all taller than me, which added to my discomfort. I worked my way through the crowds to find Commander Quan. He was at a table near the back, sitting with a female Ori. "Commander Brian," he called out. Several other beings turned their heads to see who was calling out and whom he was calling to. I approached the table. Quan clasped my forearm as a greeting. He waved at me to take a seat. "What are you drinking?" I asked. "It is a local brew. Would you like some?" he asked. He waved over a server to order me a drink. The server looked at me and pulled out a scanner to check my ID chip. Satisfied that I would not die, she left to fetch my drink. Quan looked at me. "Brian, this my sister Mina. She is Yaren's widow. I hope you don't mind I invited her. Mina, this is Brian. He served on the Opolu Na with Yaren. He escaped the pirate attack and was rescued by a Baglogi vessel. He joined their crew and they destroyed the pirates who destroyed the freighter. Mina, I am sorry for your loss. Yaren was a good man who did not deserve to die like that," I said. Mina looked me in the eye as if looking for something. "Thank you. It means a lot to hear it from you." "You served with Yaren?" she asked. "Yes, I joined the freighter at Tien Prime, and we had traveled for only a brief while. Captain Jago assigned me various duties to get me familiar with life aboard. Some of that time I reported to Yaren in engineering. I was new to the work, but he was kind to me," I said. "That sounds like him all right. So how did you escape the pirate attack?" "I hid in an escape pod, together with another crewmate, Kaluna. When the freighter exploded, we were jettisoned into space. The pirates did not seem to care about us. Perhaps it was because we were in deep space, between systems. There was little chance of rescue," I said. About this time, my drink arrived. I took a sip. I had little experience with alcohol, and this tasted too strange for me to make a habit of drinking it. I kept a neutral face so as not to offend. I raised my drink and looked at them both across the table. "To Yaren." They both raised their drinks. Quan said, "Yaren." We drank. I took a decent amount and was about to put down the glass, but they kept drinking. I realized the custom was to finish the drink, so I did the same and finished it. I put the empty glass down on the table. I looked at them for a clue as what to do next. Quan waved at a server and gestured for more of the same. Meanwhile, Mina had more questions. "Brian, how did you destroy the pirates?" she asked. "We were rescued from the escape pod by a Baglogji star cruiser. It is a military vessel with some advanced weapons. After joining their crew, we dealt with the pirates. I got to play a role in their destruction. I cannot go into more detail how. I can confirm all the vessels that took part in the attack were destroyed." "Impressive," said Quan. I smiled. If the Ori knew how devastating our technology was, we might be considered a threat. More drinks arrived, and we each took a drink. This time, they did not finish it in one go. I was glad. I was worried it would leave me lightheaded. Quan jumped in. This time, Brian came back. He has captured the leader of the pirates that ordered the attack on the Opolu Na. Mina looked at me. "You have done much to avenge my late husband's death. In Ori custom, that makes you family. Whenever you visit, our home is your home." "And that goes the same for me," added Quan. My extended family was growing. I wondered what would happen after I did an interview for the minister. Would all the relatives of the deceased crew want to add me to their families? I was not sure I wanted that. We talked and drank for a while until Mina said she had to go home. We escorted her outside to a taxi and watched her depart. "You did a good thing for her tonight. I can tell she will be better for it," said Quan. "I am glad to make a positive difference. Look, I think I have had enough to drink." Said Dom. "I understand. It is good to know your limit, especially with alcohol. Would you like to take a walk in the night air? The waterfront is just about a block this way, and the view is nice this time of night," he offered. "Sure, let's do that," I said. I had seen little of this planet so far. We walked down to the waterfront. There was a nice walkway along the bank of a large river that ran through the town. Their sun had already set, and there were numerous artificial lights along the walkway. The lighting from the town drowned out all but the brightest stars in the night sky. We walked along quietly side by side, enjoying a slight breeze. It was so peaceful here. We were now family. Did that make Quan my brother? I never had a brother before. It was fairly quiet at this time of night, so few other beings were out for a stroll. Suddenly a vehicle rushed up and stopped beside us. The door opened and beings in dark clothing jumped out, pointing weapons at us. Quan drew his weapon and fired at them, but they returned fire and he dropped to the ground. It happened so quickly. I was unarmed and without my away team uniform. There was nothing I could do. Before I knew it, I was shot with something and the lights went out. The communications device rang. It woke up Jem. She looked at the display. It showed an incoming call request from Minister Taryn. "Hello? This is Captain Jem," said Jem. "I'm afraid that there has been an incident, Captain. Do you know where Commander Brian is?" said the minister. "He was out meeting with Commander Quan," said Jem. "They were attacked this evening. Commander Quan's body was found floating in the river. Commander Brian is missing, presumed abducted," said the minister. "Oh no!" screamed Jem. That got Kaluna and Lane up and rushing into her room. "What's going on?" asked Kaluna. "Brian is gone," said Jem. She was crying now. Kaluna picked up the communications device. "Jem is too upset to talk. Please call back when you have an update. If we get anything, we will call you back." And then she ended the call. Lane was holding Jem, who was too disturbed to talk. Kaluna went back to the room she had slept in. She grabbed her wrist communicator. "Ship, this is Kaluna. Please respond," said Kaluna. "Confirmed," said Ship. "Ship, Brian has been abducted by hostile forces unknown. Jem is too upset to respond. I want you to locate Brian, and when you do, to contact me. If you cannot reach me, pass the location to Ori Security Services," said Kaluna. "Confirmed, orders understood." "Out," replied Ship. Kaluna put the communicator on her wrist. It would stay there until Brian was found. I woke up feeling like crap. My head hurt. I could see nothing. I could feel a twitching in my arm. I guess that was what woke me up. I just wanted to go back to sleep. It would all be okay later. The twitching would not stop. Eventually, I began to get my wits back. I realized that Ship was pinging me. I flexed my fingers and thumb of my right hand. Good. I tapped my finger and thumb 5 times. The twitching stopped. Message received. Ship will have my location. I found out that my arms were restrained behind whatever chair I was on. I still could not see. Probably there was a blindfold or something. I tried to listen for clues. Nothing. I concluded that I was in some kind of cell. In case I was being watched, I kept my head hanging to one side like I was unconscious. If all went well, Ship would contact the authorities and they would rescue me. The problem would be if they kill me before then. If I knew that was coming, I would have to stall them. Unfortunately, I did not know who or where they were. I did not want to call out and let them know I was awake. It could provoke them, and I would lose the element of surprise. This sucked. I was used to doing things, to be the one getting us out of trouble. Here I could do nothing but wait. It was several hours after the call from Minister Taryn. Lane and Jem were seated together on the sofa. Kaluna got a call on her wrist communicator. "Kaluna, this is Ship. I have a location on Brian," said Ship. "Ship, contact Minister Taryn on a 3-way call with me. Be ready to pass on the location information," Kaluna said. "Confirmed, connecting." "Connected," said Ship. "Minister Taryn, this is Kaluna. I have information on the location of Commander Brian," said Kaluna. "Kaluna, that is great news. Where is he?" asked the minister. "Transmitting coordinates to your communications device now," said Ship. "Received. Thank you. I must make a call immediately." With that, the minister ended the call. "Thank you, Ship. Can you monitor their communications without being found out? I want to be sure they are moving to rescue him. Keep me updated," said Kaluna. "Confirmed. I will do what needs to be done," replied Ship. The call ended. I had been sitting still, feigning unconsciousness, for at least an hour. I felt another twitching in my arm. It was probably Ship checking to see if I was on the move or something. I tapped my finger and thumb 5 times. My captors had not come to check on me at all. I guess there was no way for me to escape my restraints. At least that bought me time for the rescue attempt to find me. Suddenly I heard shouting and the sound of weapons fire. It was muffled, like in another room. I waited. I heard the door burst open. I remained motionless. "I found him! In here!" someone yelled. I doubted it was my captors. They knew where they put me. A moment later, the cover was removed from my eyes by a security forces being in full body armor. They made short work of removing my restraints. I groaned as my arms and legs were freed up. "Thank you," I said. "No problem. We'll have you out of here soon." "Can you walk?" asked the being. "I may need your help until I get the stiffness out of my legs." "Lean on me." She put her arm around me and helped me stand. We left the room of my confinement. In an adjacent room, there were the bodies of several of my captors. Other security forces beings were checking over the bodies in other rooms. I noticed several of them were lagged. "Did you take any alive?" I asked. "We have 2 in custody. They will be taken for questioning," said the being. "My name is Brian." "Can I know your name?" I asked. "I am called Maris. Let's get you out of here and over to the medical facility," said Maris. I continued through and out of the room. It was somewhere underground in a complex in some warehouse district in the city. It was a good place to hide me, just not good enough. Within an hour, Kaluna got a call on her wrist communicator. "Kaluna, this is Ship. I have been monitoring the communications as requested. They have located Brian and he is alive. They are taking him to the medical facility. I expect they will contact you in due course, but if you leave soon, you could meet them at the medical facility," said Ship. "Thank you, Ship. We will leave soon," replied Kaluna. "Acknowledged. Out," said Ship. Kaluna went out in the main lounge area of the suite where Jem and Lane were. "He is alive. They rescued him. Please get ready. We will see him at the medical facility," said Kaluna. Jem looked up at Kaluna. "We need to look our best for him. We can't fall apart just because of this. He will need to see us as strong." "Lane, please go with Jem, and both of you get ready," said Kaluna. The communications device rang. Kaluna answered the call from the minister. "Hello, Minister." "Yes, we just heard that he is alive and rescued," said Kaluna. "You know already?" asked the minister. "Oops, she should not have let on they were monitoring the Ori secure network communications. We were informed just recently. We are going to the medical facility to meet with him," Kaluna replied vaguely. It seemed to pacify him. "Good, then I better let you go." "I will meet you all there," replied the minister. When I arrived at the medical facility, they put me in a wheelchair and I was quickly transported to a medical scanning device. I did not feel too bad, just some bruising and soreness from the restraints. I had 2 security forces beings, including Maris, in full body armor, standing guard over me. A medic checked my ID chip and then looked troubled. "Our system does not have details of your physiology on file." "Ah, yes. I am of a race known as human. I can get you the details." "Maris, I need your help. Please use your communicator and arrange a relay communication up to the Baglogi vessel in orbit above the planet," I said. Maris took out a communications device and called their central headquarters. Somehow they patched in a call. She passed her device to me. "Ship, this is Brian." "Confirm my voice print identity," I said. "Confirmed. I can also see you," replied Ship. A display on the wall showed video footage from the security camera in the room. Now that was showing off. "Please interface with their scanner here and provide details of my physiology so they can confirm my health and/or make correct treatment," I said. "Confirmed. Transferring. Complete," said Ship. I ended the call and gave the device back to Maris. "Okay, scan me again," I said. The medic looked dumbfounded. They scanned my ID chip, and this time it continued to scan me for health. "It says you suffered some bruises, and you should expect a complete recovery in a few days," said the medic. "Thank you," I said. I turned to Maris. "Maris, when I was abducted, I was with a Commander Kwan. Do you have a status on him?" I asked. She looked at the other security forces and then looked back at me. "He was found dead, floating in the river last night." That angered me, but as a TN I kept that under control. "He was my friend. More than that, he had just declared we were family," I said. Both security forces and the medic looked at me surprised. What I had said meant something to them. Suddenly the doors opened, and in rushed Jem, followed by Kaluna and Lane. The security forces stiffened, ready to do something until they realized they were friendly. Minister Taryn came in behind them. My two guards stiffened and saluted the minister. "Well, Brian, you have given us quite a scare last night," said the minister. "It was not intentional. I met with Commander Quan at Gorns to honor his dead brother-in-law. I also met with his sister Mina, who is the widow of Yarin. Both Quan and Mina declared me to be family," I said. The minister raised his eyebrows. Kaluna looked at me strangely. "That is a significant gesture in our culture, one not taken lightly," said the minister. "I take it as it was intended, I assure you." "These bastards who did this, were they connected to Tobis?" I asked. "It is too early to say. The captured abductors are to be questioned," said the minister. "When I saw the bodies of the dead abductors, I noticed most of them are Lagaid. Tobis and most of his crew are also Lagaid," I said. "I agree that suggests a connection," said the minister. "I suggest that as soon as your security forces take the pirate vessel off our hands and the crew into custody, that you show images of the abductors to the more willing crew. They may provide answers for us," I offered. "I will pass that on to Chief Investigator Yus. If there is a connection, he will want to combine the investigations," the minister replied. "Thank you. We can hand over the pirate vessel as soon as your security forces are ready. I am keen to sort this out. There are still some pirate vessels out there loyal to Tobis, and once we are concluded here, I intend to go after them," I said. About an hour later, I checked out of the medical facility, and we all returned to the hotel. It seemed like my crewmates were stuck to me, all wanting to hold onto my arm or help me to walk. I was going to be fine. I didn't need all this fuss. We had gained an escort, the two security forces. In the elevator, I turned to Miraz. "Miraz, did you know Commander Quan? I have a request. If you didn't know him, perhaps you can ask a colleague." "I did not know him that well. I can help you. What do you need?" "I need to get in contact with someone in the security forces who was close to Commander Quan. I also need to get in touch with his sister Mina," I said. "Once you are safely in your suite, I will get you the contact information," she said. "Thank you." When we got into the suite, they all wanted to treat me like an invalid. I did not feel like one. "I'm fine," I said. Jem fetched me a coffee, which I took. "What time is it?" I asked. "Just past midday," answered Jem. "Any news from the investigators?" I asked. "Nothing yet," said Kaluna. I sipped my coffee. It was just like aboard ship. I suspected they downloaded the pattern for making it. "Kaluna, are your parents wanting to have lunch with us? Perhaps we could order room service and eat here. Do you want to set it up?" I asked. "I'm on it," she said and jumped up. Lane was looking at me expectantly. "Lane, I will need a clean outfit," I said. She jumped up and over to the clothing fabricator. "Jem, I need to clean up. Could you help me with the shower?" "I might need someone to lean on," I said. She smiled and took my hand. We went to the shower, stripped off, and I got to enjoy the luxury of a water shower once more. I washed off the dirt of last night's experience. I was clean again, and I got dressed into the new outfit with help from Jem. Back in the lounge area, Kaluna's parents had arrived. They rushed to greet me when they saw me. "We heard you were attacked and abducted," her father said. "I was also rescued this morning," I replied. We sat down on the sofas. Ori Major is normally a very safe place. This kind of thing rarely happens, her mother apologized. "I was lucky. My friend Commander Quan was killed last night," I replied. Jem handed me the communications device. "Mara's added the contacts you wanted." "Thank you." I dialed Mina. "Mina, it's Brian. Could you make it to our hotel this afternoon?" "Yes, I will be there." "It's a terrible thing that happened last night," she replied. "I can't talk too much on this line. I think we're being monitored. I will see you when you get here." I ended the call. I looked at Kaluna's father. "Last night we shared a drink to the memory of Chief Engineer Yarin from aboard the Opalu Na. She is his widow. The late Commander Quan is her brother. Last night they both declared I was family to them." Kaluna's father nodded. They had already declared me family after I had saved their daughter the first time. To declare someone to be family meant something important in Ori customs. I did not know all the details. I figured it was just a way of saying thank you. Food was delivered to the suite, and we enjoyed the Ori cuisine that Kaluna had chosen. It was rather spicy, but that was how much of their cuisine was. We ate lots. I was especially hungry. After lunch, Kaluna's parents returned to their own suite. Lane and Kaluna cleaned up after the meal. I sat with Jem and held her. When I heard your friend was dead and you were missing, I thought the worst. I thought I'd lost you, said Jem. I did not know what I could say, so I hugged her. We sat like that for a long while. Lane and Kaluna gave us space. Later, Mina arrived at our suite. I greeted her, and we all sat down. I am sorry about your brother. I suspect the beings who killed him came after me, and he got in the way. I saw him draw his weapon on them before they shot him, I said. Mina was in tears. Kaluna sat with her and held her. There was a lot of hugging going on recently. I was not very comfortable with it. I'd rather get into a firefight on an exploding space station. I waited for her to calm down. Finally, she got herself together. You were there when he was killed? Yes. After you went home, he took me for a walk by the waterfront. They attacked us there. After they shot him, they shot me with something. That was all I remember, I replied. But they did not kill you, she said. I suspect they wanted me for something. Perhaps they wanted to torture me. I have killed a lot of pirates and I've made enemies. Fortunately, the security forces rescued me this morning before they did anything more, I said. You got lucky again? I will let you in on a little secret. I have a tracking chip embedded in my arm. It allowed our vessel to locate me and report it to the security forces. Without it, I would be dead or as good as dead, I replied. I pointed to my right arm. That seemed to placate her. I did not need another enemy. Last night, you and your brother both declared me to be family. But bad fortune follows me. You lost your husband and now your brother. If you want to reverse your declaration, I would understand. If you distanced yourself from me, you might get to live longer, I offered. Mina and Kaluna both looked at me in shock, as if I had slapped them in the face. When I saw their reactions, I knew I had said something wrong. I looked to Jem, but she was no help. I grew up an orphan. I did not need family ties. It was something they needed more than I did. Mina looked at me. What happened to the beings who killed my brother? She asked. I looked to Maris, the security forces who was standing guard near the door. Maris, could you please come over here for a moment? She looked to her partner, who nodded, and then she came over to where we were seated. Maris, this is Mina. Commander Kwan was her brother. Please, could you report on the status of my captors? Maris looked at me, then at Mina. We encountered 8 hostiles this morning. 6 of them are dead. The other 2 were captured and are being questioned right now. Thank you. What do you think is the life expectancy of those 2 beings? I asked. They killed a security forces commander. I expect their life expectancy to be extremely short, she replied with a wicked grin. Thank you again, I said. Maris saluted at me and also at Mina. Then she returned to her post. I hope that answered your question, I said to Mina. It did. Thanks to your tracking device, they are all dead or as good as dead. And whose idea was this tracking device? She asked. I did not like where this was going. It was Brian's invention, said Kaluna. We each have one. Because of mine, my crewmates tracked me down after I was captured, and they rescued me. I owe him a life debt for it. Brian, because of your invention, my brother's death was avenged. The attack was not your fault. You are still family, doubly so. But I will not be taking a stroll down by the waterfront with you. She smiled at this. It was the first smile since she arrived. I smiled back. Since we are family, I have something in mind. I'd like to return to Gorns this evening and drink to his memory. I also want to show to beings like those who attacked us that we are not afraid, I said. I accept. Kwan would not want us to cower and hide. He would not want us to stick our necks out either. But Gorns should be safe. Do you think there are more out there after you? I don't know. I have calls to make. You are welcome to hang out with us until it is time to go. They are my family also, so you might like to get to know each other, I said. I took the Ori communications device from Jem to make my calls. Brian, whatever your plans are, I am coming with you tonight. That is non-negotiable, said Jem. It might be dangerous, I said, trying to dissuade her. That's an understatement. Last night, Commander Kwan died, and you were abducted. I understand it is dangerous. I won't stay here in the hotel and hope you will be safe. I will be there with you. That's an order, she said. I nodded and then went into the bedroom. My first call was to a Lieutenant Commander Ron. He reported to Commander Kwan in the Ori Security Forces. Hello, this is Ron. Hello, my name is Brian. I am commander of the Baglogi vessel. I assume you know of me. Yes, I do. Commander Kwan told me you killed the pirates that killed his brother-in-law. What can I do for you, Commander? I was with Commander Kwan when he died. I understand you worked with him and were good friends. I plan to be at Gorn's this evening, around 0800 local. I will drink to his memory. I need your help to invite all who knew him and are available to attend. You understand our customs well. I can do that. Anything else? Are you involved in the investigation into Commander Kwan's death? Yes, I am. Well, I believe that there might be more beings who will try to attack me. They would be connected with the ones who killed Commander Kwan. I would ask you make it well known that I will be there tonight. I would ask that any security forces that attend be armed. You might be lucky and bag more of the bastards. I like your thinking. Let me take care of things. He ended the call. Next was a difficult call to make. There were only a few people who knew where I would be last night. My healthy sense of paranoia was spiking. I called Ship using a risk communicator. Ship, I need your help. I'd like you to monitor the communications of Minister Darrin and his staff. I will call him next and announce where I will be tonight. I want to see who calls out to whom to leak the information, I said. Confirmed, monitoring in progress, replied Ship. I ended the call. My next call was to Minister Darrin. I was fortunate to get through right away. Minister, this is Brian. I need your help with something. Brian, what do you need? You previously asked about me doing an interview. I assume you had a reporter in mind? I do. Tonight I will be at Gorn's this evening, around 0800 local. I will drink to the memory of Commander Kwan. There will be his sister and some of his colleagues from the security forces present. I think it would be a good opportunity for your reporter. I will contact her immediately. Thank you for thinking of this. You keep surprising me in positive ways. Soon after we ended the call, next I called Ship back. Ship, I just ended a call with the minister. I need something else from you. Please define, replied Ship. The captain and I need Baglogi uniforms, but not away team uniforms. I'd like to include the special mesh in the fabric to absorb most energy-based weapons fire. If you could also include a layer that can reduce damage from small particle weapons fire, I would be happy, but I don't want it to look too bulky. Is that possible? I asked. Confirmed, replied Ship. Can you interface with the clothing fabricator in our suite to fabricate them here? I asked. Accessing? Confirmed, replied Ship. Awesome. After they are complete, delete the pattern and the log entries from the clothing fabricator. I don't want to share our tech yet, I said. Confirmed. I took the liberty to include a concealed stun gun in the jackets. They should be ready shortly, said Ship. Thank you. Please let me know when you get anything on the leak. I ended the call. Close to the appointed time, Jem and I were dressed in our new uniforms and accompanying Mina down in the elevator. We also had a protection detail of 2 security forces with us. When we got to the hotel entrance, there was an armored car waiting to take us. I thought that was overkill. I looked at one of our security forces to ask them what was going on. Compliments of Lieutenant Commander Ron. He said he did not want you to suffer an accident on the way to your funeral, said the security forces with a grin. I guess it was true I was painting a target on myself. We all got in and traveled the short distance to Gorn's. We pulled up close to the entrance, and we got out, flanked by security forces. There were news camera drones waiting to capture our entrance. We did not wait out in the open and quickly entered. There were more beings here than last night. The volume seemed louder. They all seemed to be military and security personnel, and all Ori. I felt more properly dressed this time. The one person who was not wearing a uniform other than Mina was obviously a reporter. I greeted her. I am glad you could make it at short notice. I am Brian. I'm glad to be here. My name is Salas. I have camera drones recording everything. Plus, my producers have access to the security camera feeds. Please just go about what you came here for, and we will take care of the rest. I won't be asking questions like in a regular interview, as this is a live event. said Salas. I nodded in response. Our escort guided us to a table. There were several beings already here. They all stood. Welcome, Brian. I am Lieutenant Commander Ron, he said as we clasped forearms. I was getting used to this greeting. Thank you. This is Captain Jem, and this is Mina, Commander Kwan's sister, I replied. Ron then introduced us to all those around the table. We sat down, and I made a point to sit next to Ron. I leaned over to get close enough so he would hear me. I assume you have everything prepared? Yes. I would pity the fool who tried to come in here and make trouble tonight, he said. I smiled at him in response. A server came over to our table with a tray loaded with drinks. They put one in front of everyone. I picked up mine and stood up to address the table. We are here to remember and honor our friend and comrade, Commander Kwan. He was a good being who died too soon, killed by some villainous scum who would attack us. I was honored that he had recently declared me to be family to him, and I grieve his loss with you tonight. To Commander Kwan. I raised my glass and slowly drank it all. I realized I had not explained to Jem about this custom. I watched as everyone stood and drained their glasses. Several of the beings around the table nodded in my direction. I think I had done it right. The server returned with another round of drinks. I was getting a twinge of paranoia. It was so strong I wondered if I should duck or something. I leaned over to Ran. Do you have beings doing a perimeter sweep for explosives? I asked. Yes. Why? He asked. I feel something is not right, but I don't know what. Do you ever get hunches like that? I said. In our line of work, we all do at one point or another. I have learned to take them seriously. Hold on. He pulled out a communications device and spoke in it for a moment. So far, no trouble here, he said. Then I figured it out. Please contact the detail at the hotel. 2 of our crew are in the suite, I said. He did so. No response, he said. Crap, he called another team. I had a backup team in the lobby. They are going up to check. I put a hand on Jem's arm. We may have to cut this short. What? Asked Jem. I ignored her for a moment. I used my wrist communicator. Ship, locate Kaluna and Lane, priority. Confirmed, unable to locate, no response to communicators. Video feeds are down, said Ship. Crap, I hate being right.